Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Gaming Magic. And this week, I'm going to be talking about the why of Gaming Magic. We're talking about purpose, we're talking about specific and broad goals, and we are sort of wrapping it up and bringing it back to our discussion last week about how to sort of merge the magical practices you're already working with the game magic systems that you may be exploring in your practice. If you haven't done or checked out the exercises from last week, I will leave the Patreon link below where you can watch the video as well. And I will also be leaving the link below for watching this week's and doing the exercises and prompts for this week as well. So I'm going to just read a little passage out of Pop Culture Magic Systems, and it's by Taylor Elwood. And so the passage, it's about what purpose will your system of magic fulfill. And this is a really important thing to consider when you are doing any magical practice. Sort of what the purpose is and what your intentions are really what power and fuel and really keep that system alive as you're working through it and deciding what your goal is going to be. So he says, the purpose of your statement of intent, and if you will, the DNA of your system of magic, informs everything you do in the context of creating and developing that system. Pretty simple, but in execution, there is a lot that goes into thinking and considering that what you want to work with, what you want to work on, how you're going to approach that. I know when something itchy. I know when I started working on the tarot, for example, it was such a very broad topic, and there were so many decks to choose from and courses, people to follow, people to check out. It was very overwhelming, but I found that having systems to work with really helped. So when you are thinking about what your purpose is, I find the easiest and a good way to start is to make a list of your broad intentions and your specific intentions. So your broad intentions would be the overarching intentions, and the specific would be the things that would fit into those categories. So I'm going to use an example of if you're wanting to create a community, which I know that a lot of us are part of a community or wanting to create one. This includes creating movements, businesses. It could be just a support group, could be a physical or an online group, could be a passion group or an interest group, as I am doing with this gaming series. So your broad topic could be, your broad intention could be, I want to create a community. And you want to use your magical skills. You want to use the magical systems that you're using now, but you also want to incorporate the gaming stuff into it. So I'm going to use the example of D&D because it's a perfect world. It's a community. It is long-standing. It has a really good balance, I think, of male and female players nowadays. I'm not sure how that statistic was in the past, but it definitely is very opening towards male and female players and online groups and also physical groups. So you've got a lot of variety there to already play with. And how you would incorporate gaming magic into that as a specific goal could be, maybe you want to focus on leadership skills, maybe that the areas that you struggle most in areas of your life in general, like work, other communities, you struggle because you have leadership skills or lack of. And so by using that system and taking on maybe a character, an object, taking on a race, a class, depending on what game you're playing, because I'm playing D&D, you can really start to look at how specific intentions can play into utilizing what is already available in the game system itself. So I might pick a class that is well known for its leadership qualities. And I might, if I already am good with leadership, maybe I want to learn how to be a team player, and maybe I want to construct a community where it's sort of a more equal footing. I think all communities should be equal footing, but depending on what the community aim is or purpose is, you can look at maybe being a team player, maybe looking at co-creating a community, co-hosting a community. And this is something else that is very much part of the D&D world, because you are co-creating a narrative or a campaign, and you're working with people. Sometimes you will have leadership roles, sometimes you'll have your characters will be sort of a little bit lower on the hierarchy. You can take the DM position or you can take the player position, and this is a very good way to again explore how you could set up a community and what you like, how you would go about doing that. So that was one intention of the broader topic of community. So another intention might be creativity. So you want to start creating some design work, and you really want to get yourself out there promoting that design work. You can use the sigils or skills or symbols in part of the game to do that, especially if they are linked with characters who has certain abilities. Maybe you want to be a wizard, and wizard had certain abilities that can also be applied to creating those certain sigils or energy points, and invoking and evoking the energy. So you can kind of see that you can do quite a lot with a broad topic, and then setting smaller intentions that can interweave some gaming stuff into it. So I use an example for me over on my Patreon, where I decided one of the really big things I wanted to work on this year is being able to be comfortable and empowered in a group of guys, men, people. I definitely struggle with it due to some traumatic situations in my past. And while my magic has really definitely helped, I just felt like there could be a different way to approach it, one that would actually get me out of the house and not so much in my head, and find communities or people that would be able to reflect what I wanted to do. So, in doing so, that was my broad desire, that was my broad goal. And my smaller intentions, finding that community and creating characters that embody the qualities that I am looking for in those groups, in those particular man groups, and also in myself as well, which is sort of part of the inner masculine work. And I do that by looking for characters who have either got characteristics that I already have and want to strengthen, or by looking at my blind spot and weaknesses and finding characters that can improve those weaknesses and blind spots. And so those are just a few examples of where you can draw in that magic system as well. Also, I'm going to be touching a little bit on this next week as well, in terms of choosing a character to co-create with and work magic with. But you can kind of get an idea of how just taking a very broad topic and breaking it down into particular small goals can help you to really think about how you want to work with the system as well. Yeah, so that's how I work through my process of figuring out how I want to work on a system. I do the same with Teen Wolf, with my pop culture magic. How I started that was I really looked at the characters, the world, the magic and the supernatural in that, and I worked out what areas or what characters I really identified with. So, for example, I identify really strongly with Scott and Styles, more so Styles. Um, Scott, because he came into his leadership role not always out of choice, but he definitely learned to adapt, be flexible, take on a team, um, really gain confidence over the series as well. Styles, because I like his sarcasm and I tend to have a very sarcastic humor, but also he is quite creative and great at problem solving and critical thinking. He's also somebody who, while he does dabble with or have experiences with the supernatural, to start with, he doesn't. He's still a human. And I always really thought it was interesting how he could adapt and be flexible as well, as his world is turned upside down to accommodate um, new understandings about the supernatural world. Because if you are a spiritual practice or a magical practice, I'm sure we've all had experiences where we've seen things or heard things or experienced things where it breaks our consensus reality. And again, it's another something that I wanted to explore as well with gaming magic is how can I apply that to my real life situation? How can I gamify my life? And what the journey is between creating life for myself or co-creating a life for myself with other people, and the difference between that and having a life that is chosen and created for us, which I think is really interesting as well when you come into games, because a lot of the games that I like are RPG systems where you get to build your characters and you may have a built-in world, but you can always tweak that world. You can always combine different worlds and different pop cultures in that world as well, and you get to create your own narrative. Sometimes it's random, sometimes it is also co-created with other people, but primarily when you're playing, you get to decide who you are and how you want to walk in the world, how you want to journey, and how you're going to come up against those problems and enemies and even your own team while you go through the journey. So you can see that there is definitely parallels between magic and gaming, and how you can really work those things together to create change in your life. And that is really why I was drawn to making a series about gaming magic, because I saw the similarities between storytelling, my passion of writing, my passion of gaming, and my already addictive magical practices and systems that I use, and how they all interrelated to change the way that I live life. Coming from a background of not having confidence, coming from a background of domestic violence, coming from a background of recovery. I definitely have used magic and now pop culture to change that, to change how I view the world and change how I view myself. And that's one of the really great things about having these broad and specific intentions, because you can see, where your life is, where you want to go, make goals, and make action steps to do that. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Like I said, everything will be linked below. If you would like to get some more insight or some sneak peeks into how I actually use the journaling prompts or exercises, you can support me on Patreon for $1 with the Explorer Supporter tier. You get a lot of great material, resources, and some fun videos, and it will help support me to continue making these videos, but also because I love making these videos and I'm very passionate about this topic, and there's not quite a lot out of there. Also, if you would like to check out Taylor Elwood's book, I'm not like promoting it, but I definitely love it. I up there with my top favorites. And I'll leave a link below where you can find this as well. So, thank you guys. Have a great week. So, next week we'll be talking about choosing a character to co create your magic with.